morning to everybody. Dear colleagues, fellow ambassadors, President Talwar, Dr. Kumar, other distinguished guests at the dais, on the dais. It's my real pleasure to be here with you. And I would like to express my sincere thanks on my own behalf and on behalf of my colleagues who are present here, ambassadors who are present here, for organizing this event. It's a very timely event, and it's very much in line with our way of thinking to discuss and to come up with recommendations how we make our economic relations stronger and more result-oriented. Let me allow me to start with a more general comments, because it's very important to understand where we are with EU-India relations as of now and what are our plans for the future. I would like to come back to a EU-India summit in October 2017, when the European leaders visited India and met with Prime Minister Modi. And my deep conviction is, and it's my assessment, which is shared by the European leadership, that it was a milestone in our bilateral relations. For the first time, both sides decided to really pay attention to each other in an unprecedented scale in comparison with the past. For the first time, the European and Indian leaders, with full support of our member states, designed a far long-term vision for our relationship for next 10, 15, 20 years. We declared us as natural partners with partners sharing the same values and principles. But first of all, we identify common interest. We were able to transform the common values and principles into clearly identified common interest as a basis for our future cooperation. And now, what India means for Europe, for the European Union. India is one of the most important partners for the European Union when it comes to our political cooperation and as well as it comes to trade and investments. In recent years, we have seen our partnership expand also into other fields such as environment, clean energy, sustainable urbanization, just to mention a few. And what is important for us? How we assess what kind of potential India presents to us now. India's economy is going through a fundamental modernization process, and we, as the European Union, we are and we want to be a partner, a key partner for India in the implementation of India's ambitious modernization agenda. And in order to strengthen and to underline importance we pay to India, last November, the European Union, with full support of member states, adopted its long-term strategy for relations with India. The strategy, which was developed in broad consultations with European and Indian stakeholders, show how significant the EU considers India's role in international and regional matters and how determined the EU is to further develop and realize the full potential of our partnership. The strategy is full of very positive political commitments and declarations, but at the same time stipulates and lists a long range of sectors in which we can cooperate with India. And there's a first big heading in that strategy is the EU and India as partners for sustainable modernization. And I would like to underline for sustainable modernization not only in India, but as well in Europe, because we are going through a modernization process as well. And it was mentioned already that India, being the fastest growing large economy with the potential to become a global growth engine for the future, a country which has embarked on a path to utilize its existing potential for the future, for us it's important. It means that is absolutely clear. And our approach to India is very much based on our analysis of all your plans, your requirements, your expectations. And in designing our strategy, our approach, we take into account very much your priorities, and whenever your priorities coincide with our priorities, our task is to find out ways how to utilize the existing potential. And now, there are certain main directions which I understand are extremely important while looking for ways to strengthen our economic cooperation. The first one, which very often is not underlined so substantially, relates to the global economic order. We are living in times when the global international situation is full of uncertainties. There are a lot of unpredictabilities, and that's why for both of us, it's extremely important to look how the European Union and India, working together, are able to influence the shaping or reshaping of the global economic order. We both are very much devoted to multilateralism, and we are very much devoted to rules-based international order. It means that we have never declared ourselves as the first, and that's why we, being big economies, we have to work together how to reshape, how to make global economic governance in the interest of all of us. In this context, it's extremely important for us to work together in such fora like the G20, where India and many European countries are members, at WTO. The global trade system now is in a very challenging stage, and while working together, we may have an impact to preserve global economic order, which should be based on certain rules. And I know that our delegates and your delegates are very much in touch in Geneva while discussing how to make WTO functioning and to be more result-oriented. And I'm absolutely sure, and we have to take into account, if we would combine our efforts, if we would compare our interests, the European Union being in general terms the largest economy on the world, and the Indian economy as one of the largest economies, working together, we will have a real possibility to impact on shaping and reshaping a global economic governance. This is the first point. The second point relates to trade and investment ties. The EU is India's largest trading partner in goods and services combined, and will remain so even after the Brexit. According to latest statistics, our bilateral trade in goods and services. Madam, you mentioned trade in goods, but usually taking into account the importance of trade in services, it's better to give figures which combine both trade in goods and services. And according to our data concerning trade in 2018 and services in 2017, we have exceeded already a level of 141 billion US dollars. And what is very important, that our trade in goods is also remarkably balanced. with exports and imports in 2018 amounting to $51 billion each. It means that it's ideal balance in our trade. What does it mean? It means that our economies are really complementary, We don't have problems with trying to balance our trade. This is a fact. It means that interests of our exporters and all your exporters are very much balanced. Concerning trade in services, the fact that we have already exceeded a number of $39 billion in trade in services, again, it's in the interest of India, and it underlines the importance of India's service market for our companies and European market for Indian service provider companies. And in services, again, the balance is almost in place in slight favor of India, which we have no problems at all, because we are really complementary. FDIs. FDI flows between the EU and India have also been booming. The EU's share in FDI inflows to India more than doubled from 8 to 18% in the last decade, making the EU the first investor in India. As of now, according to our estimations, we have more than 6,000 European companies based in India. And those companies provide directly 1.7 million jobs and indirectly additional 5 million jobs. And of course, what is very important, what Mr. Talvar mentioned, our investments are very much linked to transfer of technologies. But allow me not to be too optimistic and too enthusiastic. If we would take into account the existing potential of the European economy and Indian economy, such figure like 141 billion should not satisfy us, because the potential is much, much bigger, and we need to really do the best. As Dr. Kumar mentioned, this is a role for the government to establish the most conducive possible conditions for trade and investment exchanges. From this point of view, the EU has a direct interest in the success of India's economic reforms needed to unleash the full potential of the Indian economy. With an ongoing debate in India on the benefits of trade liberalization, there is still a strong reliance on export. This is my feeling, and inward investments, and reluctance to open Indian market to imports. My feeling is that the trade liberalization, taking into account circumstances, interests, is very important for the future success of the Indian economy. And we are fully aware that, and we should acknowledge it, that our bilateral trade suffers from a number of trade and investment barriers, while ease of doing business has improved in India considerably in the recent years, but the hikes of import duties across several sectors during the last few years and the existence of some other barriers on the Indian market, it's something which should be considered by the Indian government and is being considered. And I would appeal to PhD chamber and overall business organizations to work together with us, with the Indian government, in what way we can make this investment and trade environment more conducive to our trade relations. Of course, I was a bit critical about barriers the European businesses face in India. Of course, there are some barriers which the Indian companies may face, or probably they face, on the European market. That's why it's extremely important for us, for both sides, the European Union and the Indian government, to work together how we may make this environment more conducive. In this respect, it's extremely important to go ahead with a free trade agreement between India and the European Union. This is a must, because only going through a complex discussions and having a comprehensive agreement, we will be able to make this environment more conducive for our business exchanges, and at the same time, we will be able to remove a big number of barriers which still exist. That's why, allow me to underline once again that the European Union remains firmly committed to a comprehensive and balanced free trade agreement with India with sufficient level of ambition to respond to each side's key interests. And I would like to inform with a high level of satisfaction that we have an ongoing dialogue with the Indian government with the aim to narrow the gaps and ensure that the future FTA will be economically meaningful and mutually beneficial, delivering real new market openings to the both sides. And in this context, usually I'm asked that it's not easy for India to go for a comprehensive free trade agreement because level of development in India and Europe are different. I can assure you that in all our discussions about the free trade agreement, the fact that India is a developing country, this factor is taken into account very, very, very much. And we want to be realistic. That's why I hope that the ongoing dialogue on the future possible FTA with a very strong engagement and very strong engagement on the Indian and European side will bring us to a stage when we will be able to have more concrete and result-oriented effects. And in this context, what is also important is our investments relations. It was mentioned that our cumulative investments of European countries in European companies in India have reached $70 billion according to our figures, which No, overall, according to our figures, the European companies have invested cumulatively since 2000 more than $90 billion in the Indian economy. And at the same time, we are very happy that the Indian investments in Europe have increased substantially during the last few years as well. But again, to give you a realistic picture, during last financial year, the influx of European investment to India has decreased. Probably there have been different factors which triggered this decrease, but many factors. But one of them could be that we don't have an investment protection agreement. As you know, the Indian government decided to renounce bilateral investment treaties with EU member states. And now, as it is EU competence, we're absolutely ready to go ahead with an investment protection agreement, which would, between the EU and India, and discussions on such subjects are going on, especially that not only India has modified its policy regarding investment protection. We, as Europe, we have modified our investment protection policy as well, and I'm absolutely sure that we are able to find a common ground, and I can inform you, I may inform you, that discussions at a high level between the Minister of Finance and the European Commission are going on it. That's why this is, it was my second point, trade and investments. But there is, while my third point is, while talking about economic cooperation, we should not limit ourselves to trade and investments only. Because, as President Talwar mentioned, we have to be more innovative, we have to be open for new forms of our cooperation, or we should be able, you businesses should be able to use the existing potential in other sectors. In this context, allow me to underline that the European Union and India have established during the last few years a number of partnerships which are designed to facilitate or to deepen our cooperation in such sectors like water management, environment, climate change, urbanization, circular economy, resource efficiency. And we have established such dialogue, such partnerships that are already, their implementation is well advanced. On the basis of experience we have collected, now we are working on a new partnership on a blue economy. What is the meaning and the role of such partnerships? In general, there are three layers in the implementation of such partnerships. The first one is a policy dialogue. But I don't mean simple meetings between a number of officials from one side and a few officials from another side. The policy dialogue means that we need to engage into such dialogues different stakeholders, EU institutions, EU member states, European businesses. On Indian side, union government, state governments, business organizations, to really discuss what are the needs from both sides and what are the options, what are the offers we can offer each to another. And our policy dialogues in such fields like water or energy have already brought good results. The second layer of such partnerships is to come out with business solutions. That's why when Commissioner Vella was here last September, he brought 8 European businesses specializing only in one sector, resource efficiency or circular economy. It means that we provided a forum for Indian and European businesses to discuss practical solutions. What kind of business solutions can be found, which should be linked to transfer of technology. A few weeks later, we organized here under EU umbrella participation of 130 European companies participating in the Renewable Energy Expo. A few weeks back, we organized EU-India conference on biofuels. We discussed, with the participation of European businesses, such issues like European businesses participation in offshore wind development, with rooftops, with solar parks, smart grids, and so on and so on. And all such dialogues are managed or are conducted in the participation, with the participation of businesses from both sides. This is very important because it's for you, for businesses, to come up with practical initiatives and to implement this good, conducive environment to practical business solutions. And the third layer is relates to finding or proposing financial solutions. That's why, in this context, I would like only to underline that the European Investment Bank has expanded its action in India during the last 3 or 4 years to unprecedented level. Only in 2018, the European Investment Bank concluded agreements or open credit lines with a value of 1.7 billion euros. And the European Investment Bank is very active in such fields which are related to your priorities, infrastructure development, metro projects in Lucknow and Bangalore, the development of new and renewable energy resources, and so on and so on. In this context, I would like to underline that we are as well, we as the European Union, but first of all, member states, especially France, are very much engaged in the development of international solar alliance, as only as an example. That's why we as you as businesses, we have to look for more result-oriented solutions under the framework of ongoing dialogues and contacts related to the implementation of partnerships. I don't want to give you more examples, but now, for example, urbanization partnership is very well advanced, and I'm almost sure, I hope this is for the Indian government to decide, that very soon some European technologies will be approved by the Indian partners to have some IT solutions which will be used for in all 100 smart cities of India. And by the way, transfer of such technologies will be done free of charge. Dear friends, that's why, in addition to that, what we do else more, standard and standardization. Our current economies are entering into a new stage of technological revolution. And the world is divided, different countries trying to promote their standards. That's why I'm happy to say that our dialogue and cooperation on coming out with new standards in different sectors of our economy is very well advanced. And we, again, having in mind scale of our economies, if we would agree on our standards for Europe and India together, we will be able to have an impact on international standards. This is very important, especially in the most modern economies. Another point, research and technology, which is very much related again to the transfer of technology. Only recently, we launched a number of joint calls where our European and Indian research institutions are working together on new technologies in the field of water management. We will have 57 European and Indian research institutions working together under a number of consortia to come up with technologies in water management which will be available both for Europe and for India. We are working in the same way in the field of vaccines, modern vaccines, medicines. We are now preparing a new joint call for European and Indian research institutions in the field of smart grids. And now there is a question how to engage a private sector, how to engage you to this process of developing new technologies. And in this context, I'm really very happy to tell you that for the first time, we have been able to engage Indian and European private sector in developing certain technologies co-financed by our research and technology project Horizon 2020. Only 3 weeks ago, I was really happy to be present in the ceremony of signing a cooperation agreement between a consortium of 16 European research institutions and private companies from 9 countries, led by a French company, Enedis, with Tata Power to work on smart grids components for the future. And the project is co-financed from our research and development. It means that we have been able to bring private sector research funding into one. The same, we hope that we can proceed in it while developing the Solar Alliance concepts and other concepts related to a new and renewable energy. Of course, I'm not in a position to, but one more, startups, yeah? Startups, you have a special, one of your flagship projects related to startups. And we are working in this sector as well. A few months ago, we established EU-India Incubators Network. We established EU Innovation Platform in India. And similar solutions. That's why, dear friends, as usual, I speak too much, but I'm very enthusiastic about EU-India relations. My main message is that while going ahead, on the basis of our both sides' recognition of the importance each to another, we need to look for new forms of cooperation. We need to be innovative. We need to be more proactive in practically all fields. And we have to use each other priorities to analyze them and to come up with solutions. For you, for business cycles, it's a challenge. But as Dr. Kumar mentioned, this is our role to establish the most conducive atmosphere and environment for that, and at the same time to look how we can remove the existing barriers. And this is for you to use such options for the future. In this context, and this is my last point, I would like to underline the role of business organization and business communities on both sides. This is important role you play, and you need probably even reinforce for the future. First of all issues related to our future FTA, your input as business organization to your government way of thinking. The same on our side. We take opinions from our business communities on that. To bring together businesses from both sides, to organize business summits and business meetings. This is a role for you. That's why I would like to congratulate PhD for its role in promoting business-to-business contacts. We cooperate as well with CII, with CIKI in different sectors, and allow me to underline as well a role of the European Business Group and Mr. Raman Sidhu, who is president of European Business Group, for its efforts to work closer. In this context, the last information, only a few weeks back, we launched a project, the business support to our policy dialogues. And this project is designed to facilitate contacts between European and Indian businesses, specifically between small and medium-sized companies. And the project was launched by our Commissioner Bieńkowska, who is responsible for the internal market.